Lara Croft, the original girl boss of video games. Now sure, there may have been some strong female leads previously, but none left quite the impression as this badass archaeologist transcending video games entirely and entering mainstream popularity with a cinematic presence, merchandising, countless sequels throughout the years, and even a Guinness World Record under her belt, leading to the franchise getting rebooted with a fresh coat of paint in the 2010s, all thanks to one classic game from 1996. Tomb Raider. But have you ever actually played it? Now, despite being a PlayStation kid growing up, I'd never actually played any of these games until quite recently, as I decided to sit down and start working through my extensive backlog, and Tomb Raider just so happened to be at the top of that list. As it turns out, just a few days after I started playing the game, they would announce the Tomb Raider Remastered Trilogy Collection coming out soon, so it seems like no better time to cover this on the channel. Of course, this wasn't the first time the original Tomb Raider was remastered, but it also wasn't the first collection of the trilogy to be released. Exclusive to Australia and New Zealand, this collector's edition bundle was released later in 2002, which might explain the awkward PS2 sized box it comes in. Only 10,000 of these were printed, and I've had this thing lying around for years now and simply never got around to playing it. So now seems like no better time to dive into Lara Croft's iconic first adventure. The game introduces us to Lara right away with some of that gorgeous mid-90s FMV. Excellent. Miss Croft is informed of an ancient artifact by employer Jacqueline Natler and sets off on a journey through Peru, Greece and Egypt to uncover a mystical trio of items, but before the adventure begins, the game cold cuts to its chilling title screen. Simple, gorgeous, and effective. Before we head out to start exploring, we can first pay a visit to Lara's mansion home, where she gives us a tour of the various rooms, each devised to teach us the bare bones, yet efficient techniques at our disposal. Jumps, rolls, ledge grabs, shimmies and dives. Man, all she's missing is a wall flip to Nada spin. Now, it's been widely criticised over the years that Lara controls like a boulder, but while I'd argue that she's more of a Toblerone in the first game, yes, she is quite tanky. I mean, that's what put me off trying this game for so many years. I might have dabbled with this tutorial once or twice in the past and thought, nah, this isn't for me. But once we get Lara out of these wet clothes and actually start exploring caves in the first handful of levels, the controls grew on me quite a bit. Levels are blocked out almost like a 3D grid, so as long as you take your time, plan your jumps and learn the effect for certain movements, then the platforming aspect is actually a lot of fun. It's that same feeling you get from seeing the classic Prince of Persia's rotoscoped animation from back in the day. We've got so many modern examples of flawless, free-flowing running and climbing, but this still works for what it is, and the game has been built around these core mechanics. See, all those other boys are just reckless and stupid. We all know that the best man for a job is a sophisticated woman. The first part of the game has us exploring a set of cave systems in Peru, with the platforming starting off quite light, but still cause for contemplation of your every move. One wrong jump and you could land into a pit or step on the toes of a wolf. For defense, Lara always has her trusty pistols with unlimited ammunitions, and this is where the heftiness of the controls become more noticeable as you attempt to frantically jump around and avoid contact with all the various wildlife out to kill you. We do get an arsenal of stronger weapons throughout the game, but like a true Tomb Raider, you'll still need to keep your wits about you and explore every inch for whatever scarce resources you can find. It's such a classic video game trope of these untouched, abandoned civilizations being so bountiful and generous when it comes to weapons, ammunition, and modern medical equipment. The game is very much like a sort of survival simulation, which I really enjoy, so you do need to save these supplies for when you need them most. Level 2 is much bigger than the first, with a lot more alternate routes you can take and hidden secrets to find, levers to open passageways, movable blocks, and swimming around to discover the next area of the game. Honestly, it's an incredible start, as this is the level that I would want to use to hook the player in, as it's got a bit of everything. All of your favourite cliches, a solid mix of combat and exploration, which also teaches you in the moment of both the nuances and flaws in the controls, still with enough room and balance to where the game can be challenging, but not in any way daunting. Well, until this bear comes out of nowhere and mauls your fucking face off. Excellent. Well, there goes all of my medipacks and extra ammo. Thanks, mate. You've always got to be on your toes. The famous T-Rex scene shows up as early as level 3, which kind of shocked me. I honestly think they blew their load a little too early on this one. I mean, sure, there are more ungodly abominations yet to fight throughout the game, but the dinosaurs are somehow trumped by lions, gorillas, and other generic jungle creatures. Whatever, who cares? Brat brat, make those dinos extinct! Still though, I was stoked to finally play this level after so many years. The way these underground caverns naturally lead out into such lush forestation with waterfalls and the like is the best example of when the level design shines in this game. Now, I noticed in the trailer for the remaster that this area now features a bright skybox, but I don't really like that. The black void present in the original is obviously a result of being a PS1 era game, but it's something that I interpreted as a huge internal cave within this mountain range. I mean, after all, we did descend into this area, and if this location wasn't enclosed, then how exactly have the dinosaurs remained here undisturbed this entire time? Now, in this age of living in the past and remastering every single classic IP that's ever existed, I think it's important for us to highlight this as a discussion point, that, you know, certain art direction was taken on these games back in the day for one reason or another, and solely focusing on just trying to make everything look all shiny and new can often take away some of that magic, especially in certain locations such as this one. As lush as modern games can be, the retro graphics really add to the atmosphere in my opinion, much the same as they do in titles like Silent Hill or the Pro Skater games. Moving into our first actual tomb of the game, littered with tricky puzzles, jump scares and booby traps, booby traps, I do really enjoy the difference in theming between the exterior and interior level designs, but I do find the outdoors calling out to me a lot more, as these landscapes feel less artificial, I guess. Thankfully, the game recognises this as well, so after a quick escape, we're confronted out in the caves by one of Jackal and Natla's henchmen here to try and capture the artifact. Then we get a quick cutscene leading us into the next chapter of the adventure, Greece. This might be a good opportunity to mention that after probably an hour or so of raiding in complete silence, with barely even the ambience of your environment occasionally broken up by Lara's various grunts, this game is a bit too quiet for my liking. Of course, when there are music cues, then it's incredible, moving stuff, and I otherwise do enjoy not being bombarded with repetitive looping tracks all the time, but it is a shame that Lara doesn't speak at all during gameplay. That's honestly a bit disappointing. Maybe I've just been spoiled or oversaturated by the modern adventure genre, but yeah, it feels like it's missing something. Watching some of these levels played in the AI Tomb Raider project with computer-generated dialogue for Lara throughout the levels, explaining objectives in a little more detail, adding further narrative context, and even just thinking out loud really highlights my problem that this is severely missing in the original game. Lara is voiced over by the lovely Shelley Blonde, actually the only time she would voice the character. Our brief time in the mansion showcases her personality more as she guides us through the tutorial with nothing more than her voice.
The main hall. Sorry about the crates. I'm having some things put into storage and the delivery people haven't been yet.
It's really neat. I just wish we'd seen more of this within the actual game, as sometimes when things aren't quite as obvious due to either challenge or, more often than not, dated technology, a little voice cue from time to time just to lead the player in a certain direction would have really helped out. I mean, without this, I found myself quickly breaking up the walkthrough once I arrived in the second area of the game. Old mate from before mentioned that Pierre Dupont, another explorer, is on a mission to uncover the same artifact as Lara, and already in the opening level, we have our first encounter with him. You just shoot at him constantly, and man, he is built like a brick shithouse, let me tell you. Eventually he decides to run away, but it's definitely not the last time you'll see of him. You know, it's actually quite eerie knowing that there are dangerous people lurking around these tombs, but it's more just annoying that he always seems to pop up at the worst possible time and is just a little nuisance, like a fucking little mosquito buzzing around your head. Combine that with some of the longest and sometimes most confusing levels in the game, I honestly considered giving up at this point because I actually stopped having fun. A big issue playing the console version is saving. Real talk, I can chalk up pretty much all of my problems with this game to the save points, as they're scattered randomly throughout levels and are single use only, so these need to be preserved just like any other resource. And anytime a game limits my saves, man, it limits my patience. I just find that these are either not available frequently enough or never at points when you would actually need them, such as right before a difficult room or jump. And with how unforgiving certain areas can be, having to restart level sections over and over, fight the same creatures, do the same puzzles, all because, I don't know, you didn't know how to navigate the fucking Thor room on your first go, or because you simply slipped off a platform and died, the punishment far outweighs the crime most of the time, which is a shame because I otherwise really love this. Being sent off into an open level to explore, knowing that you need a certain amount of objects to progress, and that, you know, they're all out there, you just need to figure out how to acquire them, is the simplest form of an exploration game. One of the best levels of this is the Palace of Midas. It's just a huge maze of winding corridors, ancient aqueducts, and collapsed architecture crumbling under the weight of time. There is something different around every corner, and listen, I have to make a big deal about this, okay? Because the spikes in this game are the best, most accurate video game spikes that I think I've ever seen. Now, you know that old video game trope where if you touch the side of some spikes, that your character still somehow gets impaled on the damn things and die? I think AVGN explained it best years ago.
If you touch them, you die. That's it. Even if you touch the side of a spike, you die. This is a cruel joke.
Well, in my experience anyway, Tomb Raider might just be the very first game to actually throw that cliche out the window and function more realistically. Falling onto spikes is of course certain death, but taking your time to squeeze on by is still dangerous, but not fatal. And I fucking lost my shit at that. 10 on 10, greatest game ever. Now, the door to exit this map will only open if we offer up 4 golden bars, but to turn these into gold, well, this is the Palace of Midas after all. But by this point though, I'd been struggling through this huge map for over an hour, so I didn't even take a second to think before I experienced Midas's touch firsthand. God, I love that. Look, the constant firefights can be annoying, but otherwise, Greece has some stunning levels. A lot of swimming around too, which is gorgeous, both visually and to control. No kidding, this might be some of the best early 3D swimming I think I've ever seen from this era. It works so perfectly that I simply cannot fault it. And as we progress into more and more cramped spaces, it's not the spikes, the slamming walls of death, or the little critters running around that hinder our spelunking, but the camera itself. things just get too cramped, and while it's not the worst I've seen, it can be somewhat annoying. You can look to see what Lara sees, but the camera doesn't go first person, so her boulder naturally blocks you from having a clear line of sight, which in situations like this, where you need to make a standing diagonal jump from within a small alcove to the next platform, is really just a piss take. Thankfully, once we reach the end here, we finally get to take out all of our frustrations on DuPont and move on to the next area. Egypt is where Tomb Raider really steps into overdrive on delivering an incredible blend of curiosity-focused exploration, puzzle solving, and adventure combat. Seriously, like, aside from the endless room of pumas that attack you, I have no complaints whatsoever. It's visually striking and gives me the same vibes I got exploring pyramids in Crash 3 Warped as a kid. And trust me, the tomb wading doesn't stop there, with even more hidden pathways, challenging platforming, and intricate puzzles to solve. Is it difficult? Absolutely, but it doesn't go beyond that enjoyment threshold nearly as frequently as the previous area. I've gotta love the texture on this Sphinx. It's a good time, and later on we actually get to climb up onto an even larger Sphinx, which is kind of odd. This huge cavern is a lot of fun to explore, but of course quite confusing. I mean, the fact that we need to make some jumps while sliding down slope surfaces is nuts, but now we're also fighting all these crazy reanimated mummy creatures that fucking explode when they're shot at. God damn. Even though I'm having fun again, I'm still leaning on my walkthrough because honestly, like, this is one of those retro games that feels like it was designed to sell cheat guides back in the day. Exploring on your own is fun, but a lot of this stuff is just too cryptic for me. Upon reading, I learned that Lara can somewhere find an Uzi. Yeah, damn Uzi, like she's straight out of Grove Street or some shit. Well, imagine my shock and despair when the damn thing is in this room, suspended high up in the air, on an invisible platform! Are you having a laugh? Oh, I don't know if this is intentional or just a glitch, but either way, now that we've got some Uzis, Lara's packing some serious heat. Bruh, bruh. Alright, that takes care of this dickhead again. No idea how he even got in here, but unfortunately, after all of our hard work, Lara is confronted by Natla and a group of new henchmen, I guess, who steal the now completed artifact and try to kill Lara, who escapes by diving off of a cliff. We then get a cutscene of her chasing them down on her motorbike, and it's at this point in the game that I actually wouldn't have minded just a basic driving stage with some shooting to mix things up. But no, you only get one type of gameplay here, and in the final area of the game, the mines leading down to Hell and Atlantis, oh boy, you get all of the most difficult, annoying, and outright absurd challenges that this game has to offer. There's lots of hidden ledges, backtracking to access new areas after triggering certain events. The platforming in particular is just munted. This might be the most nerve-wracking jump of the entire game, sliding down a slope into a mid-air diagonal side jump to the adjacent ledge before the boulder gets you, and then a second diagonal jump back over. Damn, that's some pro-level shit. And then, just for the fuck of it, I guess, they make you do the whole thing again on the other way back. I mean, holy shit! I'm just one man, what do you expect from me? And much like earlier on when we were constantly in firefight with other humans lurking the levels, well, now we've got this new band of henchmen here attacking us along the way. Man, these henchmen take this level to the next level, if you get what I'm saying. We've just gotta talk about them, okay? And trust me, you're going to love this. Alright, first up is this cowboy, and man, he just opens fire the moment he catches you in his sights. I need to mention that up until now, Lara has had no weapons for this entire final level, as the group took all of her gear when they ambushed her in the cutscene prior. So if you come here too early, then you've got nothing to fight with, so you'll just be jumping around desperately trying to find something, only to fall into a pit of lava and have to restart the entire stage, given that there are so few save points on this map. Wow. So, after messing around with a bunch of shit and finally retrieving our default pistols, we can finally take this guy out and grab our magnums. Then, after descending into hell for a little bit, which is quite a strong analogy, I must say, we come up upon the next encounter, which is dude on a skateboard shooting us with Uzis while riding around in this subterranean skate park. What is this? Lara Croft's Pro Skater? Tony Hawk's Tomb Raider? Tony Raider's Pro Shoot Everything Dead? God damn, man. Honestly, I lost my shit when I got up to this the first time. I mean, these characters, for one, just randomly showed up in the final stretch of the game, so as far as I'm concerned, they mean nothing. But secondly, just the premise of this as a boss fight in any game, let alone a Tomb Raider game, is just hilarious to me. I mean, what were they smoking? I know that the depths of this hell level get pretty blazed out, but my god, this is just unbelievable. And the final big bad thankfully doesn't stand a chance now that we've got the Uzis back, so we can advance to the final stage, Atlantis. Now, you're familiar with Atlantis, right? No, I'm not talking about the sunken city here, I'm talking about the giant. And I mean giant tower covered in flesh, infested with undead creatures, and a bunch of demonic shit hatching from eggs like a fucking sci-fi laboratory. Yeah, it's Atlantis. And it's incredible. It wouldn't be an adventure game without some supernatural nonsense towards the end, and man, this is great. As difficult and time-consuming as this level can be, man, I just love playing it, which is astonishing considering how much I wanted to give up on the game hours ago, and once we finally reach the top of this giant structure, we come out into an opening with two huge guys coming at us. Your heart jumps out of your chest because you don't recall the last time you were able to save the game. All of that hard work lying on your precise combat skills, and then you see her. Flesh mutant Lara Croft, your mirror duplicate. She copies your every move, takes aim if you decide to fire, and quite frankly, she scares the fucking shit out of me like nothing else I've ever encountered in a game for quite some time. Man, I was not prepared for this. I'd never seen much of this game beyond the dinosaurs in level 3, so if there was a single moment that I could capture and relive forever that made me just so stoked that I finally decided to give Tomb Raider a chance, this moment would be it. Man, this is some gnarly shit, and I've got to give it props. After a fun little puzzle, we finally reach the top, where we're confronted by Jackal and Natla, who plans on using the ancient artifact to raise a species of super mutant creatures. But Lara steps in, sending Natla plummeting as we're faced with this monstrosity. Nah, actually, he's kind of cute, like a little puppy. Oh, I want to keep him as a pet. Fucking hell, okay, that's one dangerous puppy. Is this the most violent video game death of all time? Jesus, kids, cover your eyes as we watch it for a second time. Oh man, those sound effects send chills down my spine. Meanwhile, Lara's spine is completely shattered. The rest of this level is a daring escape through collapsing catacombs with lava rising all around you, the floor falling under your feet, and one final big dive into the depths to reach the exit. Finally, we meet Natla face to face one last time for a shootout that ends with her turning into some kind of mutant pterodactyl before we blast her out of the sky for the final time. It's an interesting ending, though after everything we've been through, one that is rather anticlimactic. I mean, the final boss wasn't a dinosaur or a crazy mutant freak, it was the lady from the opening cutscene with wings, and even after she's defeated, we still need to climb out of this place, which is kind of funny to me. Man, if I was a game designer in the 90s, I would have made one of these perilous jumps totally impossible to reach, leaving the player trapped in this cavern for the rest of time, never able to escape. But thankfully, the designers of this game aren't as cruel or evil as me, and Lara makes it out safely before the Great Pyramid explodes into an otherwise dull end screen. Man. Look, this game isn't perfect. I have my issues which I'll recap shortly, but seriously, this was made entirely by just 6 people, and I've got to say, I am impressed. I loved the Uncharted games. They really are the modern Tomb Raider, to the point where modern Tomb Raider tried to replicate them, but for as much childhood nostalgia as I have for Naughty Dog as a studio, you can go fuck your limitless bankroll and never-ending staff list, okay? Because this is an adventure still worth playing all these years later that builds up to become the truest foundation of the adventure genre. Sure, it might feel somewhat dated, but with patience, you will find the game is built around its own limitations, and it exceeds expectations from start to finish. I'm sure the upcoming remaster will be the best and most obvious choice for allowing access to new players to try these games for the very first time, but I'm just so glad to have finally experienced this game firsthand, even if I did crack the shits at multiple points. On original consoles, the save system really holds the game back, and the challenge present doesn't always feel like a natural learning curve, often spiking and then being almost too easy in other areas. It's all about trial and error, but I honestly can't find many errors beyond those few that I've mentioned throughout the review, so in that case, the original Tomb Raider gets 7 out of 10. Yeah, I love this game, and now, for the very first time, probably ever, I actually can't wait to try out the rest of this trilogy sometime in the future in all of their blocky, stiff, Toblerone glory. And so that's the story of how a small yet passionate team created one of gaming's most iconic characters, which then exploded into a household name the world over. And it's thanks to Lara Croft Tomb Raider, I feel, that we can owe thanks for inspiring generations of strong female protagonists in games to come. Even if, Lara did kind of spiral into more of a sex symbol due to her popularity and the very male-centric marketing of her era, but anyways, let's just ignore all of that for now. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. I'm Square Eye Jack, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.